Can't thank you enough for letting me stay here the night. I've been traveling from Jerusalem all day. I'm so exhausted. Oh.
What?
No, not visiting family. Well, my husband died and we never had any children. Nope, no siblings either. Yeah, we were both only children and our parents have already passed. Oh, no, don't apologize, you're fine. I was well taken care of. I guess that wouldn't make sense, would it? Well, you see, about a year or so ago, my friend and I, we were in Jerusalem, and all of a sudden these men came pouring out of this house. They were from Galilee, and they were speaking all of these different languages, including my own Greek, and they were talking about Jesus. I don't even remember everything they said. All I know is they said he was raised from the dead, he was the Messiah. I knew they were telling the truth, though, so I believed them. And I was baptized that very day. I moved to Jerusalem. I lived in community with them. You know, before that day, I was hungry a lot. You know what it's like for a widow. After that day, we shared everything. Well, I guess that's not completely true. There was this short period of time where we would get neglected. The Greek-speaking Jewish widows would get neglected in the daily food distribution. But other than that, and it got fixed real quick. In fact, they had these men, the apostles, those who had been walking with Jesus, well, they took care of us. They were appointed to take care of us, not just the widows, but everybody. It was wonderful. That was when I met Stephen. Stephen was the kind of person that you just couldn't help but like. You know what I mean? He just drew people to himself. And he was kind and gentle and never haughty. He was wonderful. He was a man of faith. We didn't have many problems with the non-Jesus believing Jews in the synagogue. Not at first. And then they started getting angry and they would tell the men among us to stop preaching about Jesus. And of course they wouldn't listen. And so they kept going. And I don't know what made them more angry, the fact that they didn't listen or the fact that our numbers were growing so fast. And I don't know why they picked Stephen to be the one to blame for it. I was there when they did, though. We were in the synagogue, and they began to lie about him. I mean, they were saying things we all knew weren't true. They said he was preaching against Moses and against the law. We knew that wasn't true. He would never do anything like that. If anything, he preached how Jesus fulfilled the law. How Jesus fulfilled the prophecies of Moses. But they wouldn't listen. They weren't listening. And he didn't defend himself. Instead, he started preaching. Stephen could find any excuse to start preaching. And that's what he did. He started with Abraham, and he started telling about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and how God had made promises and he had fulfilled them. He talked about the 12 patriarchs and about Joseph and Moses and about how God had rescued his people. I don't even remember everything he said. You know how hard it can be to pay full attention during a sermon. Then he got that twinkle in his eye. And his tone changed. And I'd seen it before. I knew what was going to happen. It was the face he made. It was the twinkle in his eye when he wasn't speaking for himself anymore. When he was speaking for the Most High. And if you knew Stephen, it meant there was going to be a challenge involved. I prayed he would stop. They were so angry. I prayed he would stop. I prayed he wouldn't. He called them stiff-necked. He said that they had killed every prophet who had ever walked among them. And then he said, it was they who weren't following the law. And with that, they wouldn't be quiet anymore. With that, they started yelling at him. And he didn't say anything. He just stood there, looking up to the sky. And then he said he saw Jesus. And that did it. They grabbed him. They took him out of the synagogue. They dragged him through the streets, and we were running after him. One of the women ran to go get the other apostles, and we were running after him, and we were begging him to let him go, let him go. But they had already decided. And he stood there. He stood there as they took stones and they threw them at his body and they broke bones and his body was being broken and we screamed, but he didn't scream. He didn't say anything. He fell to his knees to the ground. And then with his dying breath, he prayed, "Father, forgive them." The men who had been holding us back let us go. And we knelt around him. Saul, one of the men who had been leading the charge at that point, he congratulated the other men. And that was when the other apostles got there. And the crowd turned on them. We scattered. We were so afraid. We went to our homes and we hoped it would be over. We hoped they would forget. They didn't. They came after us. They started dragging us from our homes and taking us to jail where we ran. We all ran. And I've been running ever since. You know, I've replayed that day over and over in my head. I've replayed everything Stephen said and he did. He died. He died for Jesus, and he died just the way Jesus died for us. That's what the apostles said, and I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could die for him. But if anything, Stephen made me realize that I wouldn't give it up either. I don't know if I'm ready to die, but I'm going to keep running because I'd rather run than give up my faith. Sorry. This isn't quite the life I expected. Running to the ends of the earth, hiding in strangers' homes, telling them crazy stories. Oh, you didn't hear about that Jesus guy, huh? Well, I'm not a Stephen, but I guess I could tell you about him. Maybe over some breakfast? Thanks. I haven't eaten in days. Yeah, the kitchen sounds like a good place.